I'm Sean Wong. I'm one of the managers at the foundation, and it's my privilege to kind of welcome you here and kind of guide us through this moment. As many of you know, we raise funds for not only KGH, but Hotel Dieu and Providence Care, and we're here to announce a special gift. And I got to admit that one of the things on my bucket list is to own a Fat Boy Harley by the time I'm 50. By the time I'm 50, and that urge just kind of got a little stronger today. So if you see me at the Harley dealership later on this afternoon, and I'm in counseling, marriage counseling by the end of the week, you'll know I executed on one of my life's goals. But the Prostate Cancer Fight Foundation has donated almost $400,000 to the hospitals for prostate cancer research. And the first ride happened in Ottawa in honor of the late Charlie Pester, and it's grown to include 30 cities across Canada. So it's just continued to grow and expand. You're on to something special. People have resonated with that, not only your work, but the cause that we support. And so many people we know are impacted by cancer, and we want to make a difference in their lives. Funds raised to support prostate cancer research come through the Prostate Cancer Fight Foundation. And some of you are probably wondering when the next ride is. Many of us already know, but not this Sunday, but next Sunday. The bikes will Saturday. It's normally a Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah. First year for Saturday.
Really? I remember going to church, and you'd always have to kind of make sure when you went that you got there just in time. So it's going to be Saturday. There's a lot of people with us today, and I'm just going to do some quick introductions. Clint Long is with us. He's the co-chair and corporate sponsor for Kingston Ride for Dad. Rick McFarland, sitting here in front of us, also the co-chair. Julia Williams is the past co-chair, and she's with us today also. John Rothowski is here, and he's going to say a few words about his experience and what this ride has meant for him. Also representing the hospital is Dr. Roger Deely. He's the Vice President of Research and Development. Dr. Deb Feldman-Stewart, cognitive psychologist and professor for the Department of Oncology at Queen's University. Ilya Anagostopoulos, the Vice Chair of our board. Happy to have you with us. Julie White, our Manager of Communications. She's going to be tweeting about this. She's going to be Facebooking about this. If we have your permission, you'll see yourself on YouTube, because we want to continue to tell your story. And so many people get involved and are inspired by the work that you do, not only patients, but other people in the community. Nancy Druick played a key role with the Ride for Dad, and so she's with us here this morning. Dr. Robert Simons could not be with us, but he will be at the event on Saturday. And along with Nancy will be there, and one of our other major gift officers, Elizabeth Dobbs-Jones, will be on a bike, and she'll be part of that great event. So I'm going to invite Clint and Rick to come and talk a little bit about the event and kind of how it unfolds.
Thank you, Sean. By the way, buying the bike is the cheap part. It's all the stuff that comes after that.
It's all the other stuff.
No, I can't plead ignorance.
Yeah. As long as you got an understanding wife, you're good. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Kingston-Quinte Ride for Dad, I'd like to welcome everyone to the event. We're going to talk a little bit about the ride last year. And again, I'd like to introduce Rick McFarland, co-chair. He's the one that looks like the biker. I'm relatively new to the organization. I started last year. Relatively new to the whole biking community. And I must say, taking on this role has been very humbling. The biking community has been very supportive of Ride for Dad ever since its inception. And I think the success of the program is greatly because of the people who are involved in this great sport. Before I go any further, Rick and I are just the figureheads for the organization. The work is done by all the people you see sitting in the room wearing the orange and blue shirts. The Ride for Dad committee is the people that, and purple, sorry Julie. The organization is a group of dedicated people to raise money for this worthwhile project. The number of people that I know personally that's been affected by this disease is unfortunately increasing. When I first sat down and took on this role, one thing I did was I talked to people within my organization, the Ontario Fire Service, and I was shocked at the number of firefighters across this province who are dealing with this disease. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I took it on as a project locally. With the efforts made by the Hospitals Foundation and the researchers, which we thank you very much for the work you do, we're hoping that these numbers are going to go down. I currently have a very close friend who was just diagnosed 3 months ago. His prognosis is good, but I have lost 2 very dear friends within the last 4 years, and it's just basically because they was not detected early enough. So, the ride. Last year, the ride was very successful. The one thing we were very, very concerned with was corporate sponsorship was down. Last year, we managed to raise a little over $108,000. That $108,000 raised was 99% riders that made that, supported that money that was raised. And we thank the ridership for that. This year, we're expecting bigger and better things. Last year, the weather was a little This year, if the weather's perfect, we're expecting anywhere from 800 to 1,000 bikes. We hope. If the weather's not good, Rick and I might as well just leave town because
just hide.
Just hide for the rest of the while. But again, with everything that's coming together so far, we're very excited what's going to happen this year. Again, we understand there's some challenges going on within the community with regards to cutbacks and government funding cuts, but we're still very excited what we expect the riders are going to do for this year's ride. This year, the ride leaves next Saturday from CFB Kingston, heads north through the communities of South Frontenac, Rear of Leeds, Rideau Lakes, and back to CFB Kingston. We also would like to thank the base commander from CFB Kingston. He has been a godsend to set this organization and the ride in motion. Very, very supportive of the whole event, and we'll be thanking him a lot after this thing's done. He's been a real lifesaver for us. So on that note, I'll turn it back to Sean, and hopefully we'll be able to unload some money here in a few minutes.
I'm going to invite Julia to come and say a few words.
Hi. So I'm going to tell you a bit about my story. Hopefully it's just the beginning of my story. Still lots to go, of how I got involved with this organization. So I did my bachelor's, my master's at McGill, and I took a course about chromosomes, so the DNA of the cell. And I really, really got interested in this before I was doing molecular immunology, so nothing to do with cancer research. And I found that it was very fascinating, and I got in touch with Dr. Jeremy Squire, who is my current supervisor. And he studies chromosomes in cancer cells. And specifically, one of the cancers we study in our lab is prostate cancer. So I thought this was very interesting. And my grandfather had died of prostate cancer when I was 15, so I thought this was a very neat connection that I was put on the prostate cancer project. And I was very happy to be able to do research in this area. With about 8 months into my PhD, my father was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And I started to, actually it was a Czech presentation, I guess 4 years ago now, that I met this wonderful committee. And I met Ali when she was still one of the co-chairs. And I started to get involved, went to a few events, and then my father was diagnosed, and then this drove me to actually become part of the committee. I wanted to do more. So the first year, I was just a poker stamper at one of the stops, and I just took everyone's card and stamped it. And then the next year, Ali announced that she was stepping down. And there was no one really ready and willing to step up and take over. It's a big task, as I think Rick and Clint are realizing. So Heather Wilkins, who is not able to be with us today, and I took over co-chairs. And so I was doing my PhD at the same time as this. And it was a really amazing event, and without this wonderful committee, our volunteers, our sponsors, all the donors, the participants, and of course the patients, we couldn't put this event on. So what I'm studying in my PhD is we're trying to identify some different markers in a cell that would help us identify which men need to be treated, so which are the aggressive forms of the disease. Because right now, with PSA testing, we're identifying lots of men that have prostate cancer. We need a different marker that can go further, that can help PSA to determine which of those men that have prostate cancer need to be treated. And that's what my research is focusing on. So what message we want to send out is to talk to your doctor and find out what is right for you and get your PSA checked. And hopefully my research will make an impact. I know my lab, before I joined Ride for Dad, my lab was funded by this organization, and I think it's a huge impact. There's so much research is still needed with prostate cancer because we have these men that are being diagnosed, and then we need to determine which ones need to be treated. So all the money that we can get is really essential. And with Ride for Dad, the money stays in Kingston. So the money that is raised in the Kingston-Quinte region stays in Kingston-Quinte for local research and local awareness. And I guess that is our biggest mission, is to make sure that research, money that's raised here goes to research here. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. It's not only great that you're a fundraiser, but you're involved in the process. And on behalf of all the men, we're so thankful that you're working and on this on behalf of us. I'm going to invite John to come forward and share his story.
Hi everyone, my name's John Rathowski. I'm a prostate cancer survivor. My story starts with my brother having it. His urologist mentioned if he had any brothers they should get a PSA test done. I did at 48 years old. Results were positive. I was sent for a biopsy December 5th, 2002. Results came back December 23rd, 2002, cancer in one side. Surgery was arranged for January 30th, 2003. It went well. Prostate was sent to pathology. This is 56 days after my biopsy, and cancer was in the other side, fast moving. If this had not been detected, I would not be writing this story. I go for yearly checkups, and this will be 9 years cancer-free. Gentlemen, please talk to your doctors about a PSA blood test or how it is best for you to proceed. The life you save may be your own. Thank you.
First to hand out some money. And I'd like Clint and Rick to come up, and Deb, and they'll make their announcement of their gift today.
On behalf of the Kingston-Quinte Ride for Dad, and all the hard work of the people sitting in this room, and all the hard work of the riders going out, collecting the pledges, helping the committee collect the prizes, we would like to.
See, that's what's good on anyone.
And we will be back next year, hopefully with more.
And their families. And just to let you know what type of impact you had, the last time around I had done the definitive study, I thought, on the decision aid that I had been spending over a decade developing very systematically, very carefully, to help the decision with what treatment to have for early stage disease. And I had multiple centers across the country involved in the study, and we got all the way through the study. And my decision aid didn't turn out to be any better than what we thought, than what I was comparing it to. So I figured that I needed to understand better what the patient's experience was after they had made the decision. And so with your support, I collected some additional data to get a better idea, figuring that I just didn't design the study properly in the first place. And if we understood better, a little bit more about what the experience was after the fact, in the future we could design the studies better. And lo and behold, in that data was the result we expected earlier. It just happened later than I expected. Not only did it show that this particular effort that I'd spent so much of my career on was actually beneficial, going to be the best we could do at this point for helping the decision, it also is actually helping more than that, because this is at the vanguard of people in the world who are trying to figure out how to best develop decision aids. And we're going forward with that result as a unique demonstration of, yes, we should be paying attention, and it's regret that was actually the critical outcome, that we should be paying attention to what the patients experience after they've used the decision aid. So your efforts are not only going to be helping prostate cancer patients, but they're going to be helping patients worldwide with helping us to figure out how to best design these interventions. And so now I'm trying to figure out how to make these tools that we've been working so hard to develop available so that patients and their family can access them at the time that they want the most. And that's what your money is going to this year. So we thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Dr. Deely to come and say a few words.
Well, it's great to be back here again. In some respects, I hope we don't have to keep on doing this for very long, but it's always a very enjoyable and gratifying event. And I think Sean mentioned I'm the Vice President of Research at the hospital here. One thing he didn't mention is I wear a couple of other hats as well, and one of them is that I'm the director of the Queen's Cancer Research Institute, which is just across the street, and I've been in that position for 10 years. So I know the cancer research community in Kingston very, very well, and I regard myself as being very much part of it. So it's a real honor for me today to be able to say thank you on behalf of not just the prostate cancer researchers, because research that's relevant to prostate cancer in all probability is going to be relevant to other types of cancer as well. So thanks to Gary Jans and the Prostate Cancer Fight Foundation, but a real special thanks to the committee here and to Clint and Rick, and particularly Julia. She does most of her work in the Cancer Research Institute, as does Jeremy Squire. So Sean also mentioned that you guys have raised $400,000 for local research. And I think Deb alluded to the fact that, this kind of fundraising is becoming more and more important to the research community. As I mentioned earlier on about the economic situation, well, it's hitting research at the provincial level and the national level. So organizations like the Canadian Cancer Society are actually facing very hard times raising the money in the way in which they used to. The province has cut close to $200 million out of research in the last 12 months. And the success rate nationally is now down to about 15%. So I think we've made really great use of the money that you've raised. You heard some of the work that Deb is doing. I put this at one end of the spectrum. Education research, making the patient or placing the patient in a position that they can really make informed and appropriate decisions. Julia mentioned the work that she's been doing with Jeremy Squire. One of the things we desperately need is PSA is good. It's been of major benefit. The one thing it doesn't do very well, unfortunately, is it doesn't distinguish between the 90% of prostate cancers which are relatively slow-moving, and in many cases men will die with prostate cancer, but not of prostate cancer. The problem is there's another 5 to 10% that doesn't behave in the same way at all. And it's very rapidly moving, and it's as much luck as anything if you pick it up with a PSA test. So what Dr. Squire and Julia have been working on is coming up with a test that will actually distinguish between this very aggressive form of prostate cancer and the relatively, I won't call it benign, it's not benign, but compared with this very aggressive 5 to 10%, it's a relatively slow-moving disease. So unfortunately, Rob couldn't be here today, Rob Siemens. He's just become the head of urology, by the way. And I think if he was here, probably what he'd tell you about were the results of some very encouraging results from a recent phase 2 clinical trial And, you know, it's a result of a collaboration here between a clinical urologist and a basic scientist, a guy named Charles Graham. So that's why when we get your money, we try to make sure that we fund everything from the basic science end to the kind of stuff that Deb is doing that is directly relevant to patients tomorrow. So the results of this, well, I should back up a little. Charles Graham, the basic scientist, made the unexpected and still somewhat unexplained observation that very, very low concentrations of nitroglycerin, you know, which is a drug used to treat angina very commonly, would actually markedly slow down the growth of prostate cancer cells when you grow them in the lab. So this has now got to the point where they've done a phase 2 trial, and the results are very encouraging. We still don't fully understand how or why it's working. But in a cohort of men, all of whom had prostate cancer, and had received prior types of, did I say breast cancer? Men do get breast cancer, by the way, just not as frequently as women. So anyway, they'd all been treated with other modes of treatment, and the arm that got the nitroglycerin, their PSA levels rose much more slowly than the control arm. So overall, it's very, very encouraging news. And this year, I'll speak to all the other executive at the hospital, and we'll try to do something about the weather next Saturday. Best luck.
We don't want to have to go high.
Thanks, Roger. I'm going to invite Aaliyah aboard. Jared, come say a few words.
Thank you very much. It truly is my pleasure to be here today and get a chance to thank the organizers of the Ride for Dad and all the riders for all their hard work, for their fundraising efforts, and their ongoing support for the fight against prostate cancer. What we've heard here today is that research and education are so important to the treatment and diagnosis of prostate cancer. And without your continuing help, this would not be going as forward as we would like. So by all means, it's truly my pleasure on behalf of the Board of Directors and the Foundation to thank you and each one of you for everything you've done, and together we will find a cure with your generous support. Thank you very much.
It was a few years ago, a good friend of ours, their daughter, 5 years old, had leukemia, and you can imagine what emotions a family feels in that. And you know, we kind of lost track of them for a little bit, would see them at certain events. But I remember one day coming home from the golf tournament, and it was a golf tournament, and it was the day that they had the run for the cure. And I remember coming up the hill to my house, and as I looked over, I could see Bryn, the little 5-year-old, now 8-year-old, handing out water to all those who went by. And so it was just a profound example for me that, you know, we take our passions in life and we do what we can to make a difference for those who we love, for those that we care about. For you, your passion is biking, and you've brought it together with your passion to make a difference in your lives and the people that you love. And so we thank you for that support. I think we've taken our official photograph. That was our official photograph. And it is a nice day, and so we are going to make our way out to the bikes. I've just booked an appointment with Harley for 12, so I need to get there. But certainly there's some refreshments here. Maybe like in 10 minutes we'll make our way out to in front of the Cancer Center. We'll take some pictures with the Cancer Center in the background and the bike. So thank you for coming, and all the best as you ride down the road on Saturday.